The fastest way to lose your significant other is to not stay calm during an argument. When you don't stay calm, emotions will take over. Both of you will be saying things you don't mean, and suddenly you're in a full-blown fight. But when you stay calm, things won't spiral, and you'll actually be able to make progress. But how can you do that when you're feeling so angry? That's exactly what I'm going to walk you through today. I once worked with a couple who deeply loved each other. But every disagreement they would have, it would turn into a big fight and a disaster. One of them would raise their voice, the other one would shut down. They weren't bad people, they actually cared for each other. They were just angry and overwhelmed from this disconnection. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Here's what helped them and what might help you too. So if you want to stay calm during an argument, the first thing you need to pay attention to is being able to identify how anger feels in your body. What are the signs that tell you during an argument that your anger is escalating and increasing? For example, do you experience a faster heartbeat? Do you notice your volume goes up? Are there certain phrases you say to your partner when you're feeling really angry? Do you criticize them or start attacking them when you're feeling angry? Maybe you say something like, you never listen to me, or you're so selfish. So your sentences starts with a you, and that tells you you're in attack mode, you're in being critical mode. Grab a piece of paper now and think back to the last argument you had with your spouse and write down all the feelings you were having in your body. How did that anger feel in your body? A lot of times anger feels like this inner turmoil inside that just wants to get out and attack and criticize. The other thing is your partner's reactions to you. So notice whenever you're getting angry, how is your partner's response to you? Do they take a step back and shut down? Do they equally raise their voice? And you could also write down these cues. So these are all the cues that are going to help you identify when you are in the wrong territory. When you notice these signs and cues, pause or take a timeout. These are the same cues I notice when I'm sitting with a couple in a session. I notice their pitch. If they're yelling, if they're getting critical, that tells me they're feeling angry. So then I ask them, can you rate the intensity of how frustrated and angry you feel at this time from 0 to 100? And the person tells me I'm feeling like I'm 70% angry. Then I ask them to take a timeout during the session, maybe take a couple of deep breaths to just regulate themselves and ground themselves. And I ask them that once you're at a 20 or a 10% anger, let's come back to the room and continue the conversation, because I know for sure at that point, whatever we're going to talk about is just going to be an angry defensive exchange. So you also need to get really good at identifying these signs and kind of be your own therapist and pause and take a timeout when necessary and then come back to the conversation. You can even notice what are some of the strategies that help you to ground yourself when you're angry. Is it counting from 100 to 0? Is it taking 30 deep breaths? And then you can check in with yourself to see if your anger actually subsides after that. However, if you feel like you need a longer time, maybe even a day or two, that's fine, as long as you let your partner know that whenever there's a disagreement, I need like 20 minutes to myself, or I need a couple of hours to myself. But I promise you, I'm going to come back and we're going to resolve the issue. So this way, your partner is not going to feel disconnected and abandoned and feel unimportant because you're leaving in the middle of a conversation. You just notice the rise of anger and you tell them, listen, I feel like this is becoming unproductive. I'm noticing that I'm starting to get angry, and that's not a good sign for me. I want to be here for you. I want to listen to you and understand you, but I just need 20 minutes to myself, or I just need 3 hours to myself. This conversation is important. We'll come back to this. And then after 3 hours, you come back to your partner and you restart the conversation and try to repair. With this approach, you're actually not abandoning or disconnecting from your partner. You're actually taking a timeout to protect your relationship. When both of you agree to use timeouts and actually come back when you said you would, it builds trust and safety. It shows that you're committed to solve the problem and you're not avoiding it. Next, you need to understand a little bit more about emotion regulation, specifically what you need to do to regulate your anger. Anger is usually a secondary emotion. It shows up loud, but it's often protecting something softer. Maybe you're hurt. Maybe you're scared you're not important. Maybe you feel abandoned or unseen. When you slow down and check in with yourself, you might actually notice, I'm not actually furious. I'm scared, I'm losing them. That kind of awareness is so powerful. It helps you move out of attack mode into connection mode. So comment below with one word. What's the emotion underneath your anger that you're noticing? To really regulate angry emotions, you need to give your emotions a verbal label. In psychology, we call this name it to tame it. If you want to tame an intense, unpleasant emotion, you have to give it a verbal label. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry because of XYZ. I'm feeling hurt. You need to be able to accurately identify the exact feeling you have in that moment to be able to regulate it. So if you're feeling angry, anxious, overwhelmed, pause and put a word to it. Are you feeling scared? Are you feeling abandoned? Are you ashamed? Just naming the emotion starts to calm your nervous system. Actually, as I said that, I feel like I've already calmed my nervous system when I named those emotions. This is odd. This is strange. But listen, I don't give you any tips that I don't use myself. So this strategy is what helps me to be soothed when I feel these intense emotions with loved ones. And I'm sure these things will help you too. Sometimes I have clients journal that moment. Not to write a novel, but just to say I'm feeling hurt right now. And this brought up some old sadness in me. This is such a small step, but this creates space between your emotion and your reaction. If you're wondering where you and your partner really stand, I've created a great free relationship test for you that helps you identify your strengths as a couple and areas you may need support. It takes a few minutes to complete, and you can find it in the link below the video. So let's summarize what we've learned so far. You've learned that you need to know the signs in your body, in your partner, and in your relationship that tells you your anger is rising. Then you need to use a timeout if necessary to calm your nervous system. Then to actually regulate the anger the right way, you need to identify the softer feelings you're feeling under your anger. Whether it's hurt, sadness, feeling abandoned, you want to be able to identify them in the spot. And that brings us to the third step, being able to express your vulnerable truth and feelings using I statements. Once you're calm, speak from that softer place, using I statements instead of you accusations. This might sound something like, I felt really alone and hurt when you turned away during our conversation. Instead of, you never care about what I'm saying. Obviously, normally couples are a bit louder, but this is the best I can do right now. I once worked with a couple, let's call them Jake and Sarah. Sarah used to say things like, you don't care about me. And Jake would shut down in fear immediately. But when we slowed down, Sarah actually discovered that underneath her anger is this intense fear of not being important to her partner, not mattering. So instead she said, I get scared that I'm not important to you. And when you walk away, I feel so invisible. And that moment changed everything. Jake didn't feel attacked. He felt welcome and invited to understand her. That's the power of speaking from your vulnerability and using I statements to do it. If you're starting to notice the softer feelings underneath your anger and you're ready to begin expressing yourself to your partner, maybe today, press like. The click isn't just for me. It's a quiet promise you're making to yourself. But if you want to eliminate fights for good to protect your relationship, it's not just enough to stay calm. You actually need to start building a stronger connection to your partner that can withstand any tension. Watch the video on your screen now, where I'll show you how you can build this stronger connection using simple but powerful strategies.